A voice for victims, the murder of Charles Vallow. The term doomsday murders refers to a string of killings, including filicide, spousal murder, and child murder, carried out by an American couple, Lori Vallow Daybell of Chandler, Arizona, and Chad Daybell of Rexburg, Idaho. The Daybells were leaders of a Mormon religious group that the media referred to as a doomsday cult. The case began on September 9, 2019, when Lori Vallow's younger adopted son, Joshua Jackson J.G. Vallow, age 7, vanished, and on September 23, 2019, her daughter Tylee Ryan, age 16. On June 9, 2020, the kids were discovered in shallow graves in Rexburg. The bodies of Tylee and J.J. were found in the backyard of Chad Daybell, who had been Lori Vallow's lover before they passed away and had since married her. In addition, the case featured the murders of Charles Vallow, Lori's ex-husband, and Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife, as well as the attempted death of Lori's relative, Brandon Boudreaux. Alex Cox, Lori's brother, passed away before he could be prosecuted, even though officials think he took part in the crimes. Though their beliefs had diverged greatly from mainstream Mormonism, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints LDS Church at the time of the children's disappearances. Author and publisher Chad Daybell predicted the world would end in July 2020. He claimed to have had visions from the future and several previous lives. Lori Vallow had come to adopt her lover's fringe religious views, believing her family was standing in the way of her mission as a divinity set to play a part in the impending catastrophe. September 8, 2019 was Tylee's last known sighting at Yellowstone National Park, while September 22, 2019 was JJ's last known sighting. Police questioned Lori in November 2019 regarding JJ's welfare and whereabouts. Before going to Idaho in late August 2019, Lori said that JJ was staying with her friend Melanie Gibb in Arizona, her former home. Gibb, though, refuted this assertion. After that, Lori and Chad moved out of their Idaho houses and headed to Hawaii while JJ was being looked for. Authorities also found Tylee missing. The Daybells' refusal to assist the police meant that the children's situation quickly gained media notice. Investigations into the disappearances of the children indicated that a series of odd deaths and occurrences had occurred both before and after their disappearances, even before their corpses were discovered. In July 2019, Lori's brother Alex Cox shot and killed her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, claiming to be acting in self-defense. Cox passed away in December 2019 from a blood clot. Then estranged husband of Lori's niece, Brandon Boudreaux, was shot in October 2019 from a car owned by Charles Vallow. Chad's wife, Tammy Daybell, was attacked in her driveway that same month. On October 19, 10 days later, she passed away from what were initially listed as natural causes. Chad and Lori tied the knot 2 weeks following Tammy's passing. When Tylee and JJ's disappearance came to light, Tammy's body was discovered to have been asphyxiated by law enforcement personnel during an exhumation. Lori was taken into custody on February 20, 2020, in Kauai, Hawaii, and accused of abandoning her children and failing to provide for them. 2 weeks later, she was extradited to Idaho. The bodies of Tylee and JJ were found by authorities on June 9, 2020, while searching Chad's residence. Chad was taken into custody right away on suspicion of destroying or hiding evidence. Tylee, JJ, and Tammy were killed in the first degree on May 25, 2021, and Lori and Chad were accused of utilizing their religious convictions as justification for their actions in the indictment. According to the prosecution, Lori, Chad, and Alex Cox planned to kill Tylee, JJ, and Tammy to fulfill their apocalyptic beliefs and to obtain the children's Social Security payments and life insurance proceeds. Separate trials were held for Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell. Lori was found guilty on May 12, 2023, of all counts about Tammy Daybell's and her children's deaths. She was given a life sentence, without the possibility of release, on July 31, 2023. In Arizona, she is also facing charges connected to Brandon Boudreaux's shooting and Charles Vallow's passing. Chad was likewise found guilty on all charges on May 30, 2024. He received the death sentence on June 1, 2024. On November 5, 2019, Chad and Lori tied the knot in Hawaii, 2 weeks after Tammy's death, which was not yet confirmed as a homicide, and 2 months after Tylee and JJ's murder, which was also not yet confirmed by others, who were unaware that the children were missing. Chad did not notify his family in advance, except his children. When Chad's mother met Lori, she learned that he and she were married. Later, upon looking through Lori's web history, investigators discovered that she had ordered a pair of wedding rings in August 2019, a few months before Tammy passed away, and that on the day of Tammy's funeral, she had looked for wedding dresses. On November 26, at the request of JG's grandma, Charles Vallow's sister, Kay Vallow Woodcock, police went to Lori's townhouse in Rexburg to check on him. At Lori's house, Chad and Alex Cox were first discovered by a police detective. Both men displayed suspicious behavior. Chad, whom the investigator knew was married to Lori, said that he was a friend of Alex and that he hardly knew Lori, while Alex Cox, unaware that Kay had asked for the welfare check, stated that JG was with his grandmother. When Lori was eventually contacted by the police, she stated that JJ and her friend Melanie Gibb were in Arizona, but Gibb said that JJ had not been with her for a few months when the cops called. That evening, Lori's neighbors saw her and Alex Cox outside her house loading a vehicle. When the FBI and police came to search the residence, the next day, it was empty. Investigators also searched Chad's residence. Chad and Lori went back to Hawaii, where they lived off the money Chad got from Tammy's life insurance in a gated community in Princeville, Kauai. Chad had indicated on an application that the couple had no children when looking for a house in Hawaii. The initial dates of the jury trial for Lori's Madison County charges were January 25 to 29, 2021. Lori's case was postponed after it was determined that she was incompetent and unfit to stand trial on May 27, 2021. Following mental health therapy, she was found competent to stand trial on April 11, 2022. Following the filing of multiple applications by Lori's attorney, Judge Stephen W. Boyce issued an order on October 6, 2022, stating that the case was placed on hold until it was established whether or not Lori was competent to stand trial. She was deemed competent once more on November 16. In Idaho, Lori and Chad entered not guilty pleas to every allegation. In March 2023, their cases were divided at Chad's request. The explanations were that Chad had forfeited his right to a quick trial and that his lawyers required more time to examine the DNA evidence. In addition, Chad's defense team emphasized the mutually antagonistic nature of the defendants' positions. The court decided that Lori's case would go forward as scheduled since she had not forfeited her right to a prompt trial. The judge commuted Lori Vallow, Daybell's death sentence on March 21, 2023, citing recently obtained DNA evidence that was found too close to the trial to be examined and entered into evidence. The trial of Lori Vallow Daybell started in Boise, Idaho, on April 3, 2023. She refrained from testifying on her behalf. The prosecution called roughly 60 witnesses to testify. Her attorneys did not call any. Prosecutors claimed that Lori Vallow Daybell had groomed and manipulated her brother into taking part in her crimes. Given the evidence that suggested Alex Cox was directly involved in the killings, Summer Shiflett, Lori's sister, testified that Alex's decision-making was stuck at a teenage level due to brain damage he had in an automobile accident. Alex was completely influenced by Chad and Lori, according to Zulema Pastins, who persuaded him that he was a warrior of God reincarnated, and that the only reason he had come to Earth was to protect Lori. Lori's lawyer, Jim Archibald, portrayed her as being psychologically controlled by Chad Daybell during his final argument. Lori was extradited to Arizona in November 2023 to appear in court on her 2 conspiracy counts. She entered not guilty pleas to each. Her trial was set to start on August 1 of that year and February 2024, but the court indicated that it might be moved to a later date because of the volume of evidence to be processed. The jury returned a guilty verdict on May 30, 2024, finding Chad guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy in the deaths of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. He was also found guilty of insurance fraud about Tammy's death and grand theft by deception connected to the murder of the children. The Woodcocks conveyed their happiness at the decision. Woody Larry. Regarding Chad and Lori's transgressions, Cock remarked, "What did they accomplish? Nothing. How did they act?